So, I've been getting a lot of questions lately about calories. How many calories do I need to eat to lose weight? How many calories do I need to eat per day? And these are common questions, and I love getting these questions, so keep sending them my way. But I have some hard truth for you, and it's going to go against the grain of conventional wisdom. So I love these questions, they show you're curious, but the very way these questions are being worded, I feel that you're going to fail in whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether it's lose weight or change your eating habits. You're going to fail because of two strategic reasons, and I'm going to cover these today. These strategic reasons might be and probably are related to the last time you tried to lose weight or the last time you tried to change your eating habits. And if I'm correct, you just didn't stick with it. It was working, but then you couldn't stick with it. And why couldn't you stick with it? Well, perhaps because we were in the wrong strategy. We were in the wrong paradigm. We weren't understanding the problem correctly. So I want to bring up two common errors in thinking and strategy that people make. And these two errors are, the first is focusing on how much, how many calories. That's similar to the question that was being asked, how many calories. And the alternative to that is focusing on what. So instead of how much, how many calories, we focus on what. What am I eating? And a beautiful shift is possible, is more probable when we focus on what. Because in eating enlightenment, we realize that what we focus on gets bigger, and the energy we focus matters a lot. So if you're focusing on constantly thinking about calories, well, the energy of that is very worrisome. And, if you're worrying all the time, what you focus on grows. So you're going to get an anxious result, like when the weight starts coming back or when it just doesn't work long term. But when we focus on what, it changes everything. The second strategic error is logic instead of emotion. And that has to do, again, with this counting paradigm. And I'll go into that in a little bit. But first, I want to cover the how much versus the what paradigm. So it's a different strategy when you start shifting over to what. Now, it's so common to ask about calories. I get it. I get it. Calories in equals calorie out. So if you want to lose weight, you got to have more calories out than you got to have coming in, right? That's conventional wisdom, and it's somewhat useful, but the key is, has it worked for you? And has it worked sustainably? Because when you are focusing on how many calories have I had for lunch? I can't talk to you, I can't explain how many people that I've trained with where they mention things like, yeah, I had enough calories for lunch, but I didn't quite save enough for dinner. Or, the saving mentality that you have a budget of calories per day to spend on food. It's like food is basically like a thing you buy with your calories, and you're given an allowance. Does that sound familiar to you at all? How has that worked? I'm betting it hasn't, because we need to work with food. Food needs to make us feel good, and when we manage food, when it's just something that we're given 2,000 points a day, it's like it's the wrong paradigm. It's like your parents or the government or some random health authority is giving you these points, these calorie points, and it's stripping you of all your own inner wisdom. It's stripping you of all of learning health as a skill. And the number one problem that I see, what happens, is the what the hell effect. And this is a scientifically documented phenomenon, and it's when you perceive yourself as failing, like you go over your calorie limit or you eat too many calories at one meal, then you think of yourself as a failure, and because you failed for today, then you have permission to say, screw it, like I already went over my calorie limit, so screw it, I already failed today, let me just eat an entire box of ice cream because I already failed, and I'll restart again tomorrow. So asking the question, how many calories per day, It's a how much question that sets you up for failure. You're perceiving the wrong way. You're not looking at food the right way. So this is a strategy error, and you need to focus on what. So I'll link to a video down below where I talk more about what to eat. But the byline is that, I mean, this has got to be legit though. This has got to be really your focus. Making sure breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, or some combination of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. Maybe it's just breakfast, lunch, dinner. But all of that is like unprocessed foods that are, unprocessed, found in nature, that fill you up. I'll link to the video down below, which goes more in depth, but you honestly right now have a good idea of what that means. You know you got to be eating more veggies, but make sure you also eat more veggies and foods that fill you up. Nuts, beans, avocados, whole foods. Get more of that into your system and focus. Make sure each meal you do that. You focus on what? The quality of the food. And if you just focus on what, the focus changes. Instead of worrying, you're now focused. These foods, they feel better. They feel better in your body. They fill you up. They give you satisfaction. And when you focus on the satisfaction element, then the focus is in the right spot. It's not worrying. You're not seeing yourself as a failure. It's possible to really get some great changes when we shift this mentality. And that kind of leads me to my second point as well. The satisfaction of food. Focusing on what. When you focus on what, it naturally lends itself to more satisfaction. And remember the second error. The second error was logic and not emotion. And emotion is all about satisfaction. When we focus on what, we're also focusing on noticing our emotions. Am I satisfied from this food? Because if I'm satisfied, basically the long story is, if I'm physically and emotionally satisfied, I'm going to decrease my snacking and I'm going to have way less urge to binge eat or compulsively eat at night. That's going to help me lose weight. It's going to help me regulate my body systems. It's going to help me in so many different ways, give me more energy. So it's all about that. But the trap is, again, thinking in terms of logic. And there's a place for science. I'm not ditching science. The science and logic, it needs to be the secondary or tertiary priority. When it's the number one priority, it's like a vacuum that or a magnet rather, where all your attention zooms in onto how many calories, am I doing it right, am I doing it wrong, am I a good person? It's black and white. Logic is right or wrong. And this emotional intuitive world is much different. And this emotional intuitive world, it's more associated with the limbic system of your brain. That's your emotional systems. And these systems of the brain evolved maybe 100 million years ago. 100 million years ago. So for generations, untold generations, our ancestors relied on our emotional brains to eat food and to survive. They didn't have logical brains for 100 million years. And only in the past 100,000, so 1,000 instead of a million, only the past 100,000 years has the neocortex, the logical brain, evolved. So basically, if you are using logic, you're using a relatively new system that's ill-equipped to handle food. It's really not good. And especially because the logical brain can be the magnet. It zooms all your attention and you have no awareness of the emotional side. The emotional side gets totally disregarded. Logic has a place, but emotions need to go first. So emotions over logic, that's the secondary priority. And emotions, when you focus on that, health becomes a skill. You get to evaluate after each meal. Does this make me feel good? What can I do differently next time so that I feel better? Instead of just following a logical plan, you are now practicing a skill. And this skill set, this mindset of health being a skill, is empowering. Instead of following someone else's plan, some doctor, trainer, nutritionist, dietitian, instead of following someone's plan, you're now able to take control, listen to your body, practice and improve, and it makes all the difference in the world. So those are the two errors why you should not ask about calories. All right, let me know your thoughts. Peace.